Give me 1 second, guys. Let me adjust. Uh, do, there we go. Get that blur out, and let me get the lens a little bit less smudged. Give me 1 second. Let me turn up the volume. All right. And let me get the chat filter up so everyone can participate until I decide otherwise. So I've been off an entire week. Sorry about that. Um, no particular reason. I just, you know, didn't feel like streaming last week just because reasons. So I'm back. Um, got some Doritos Salsa Verde late night snack and my trusty water as always. I know a lot of you are used to seeing me with my green water bottle. And if you've been rocking with me for the past 2 years, you remember before the green water bottle, I had a black water bottle, which was like a jug instead of this. But it got destroyed when I when I went to the gym one day. I had just hit the treadmill after my strength training and went to go clean up the treadmill, set the jug up on the top of the platform on a trash can, and it fell and bust open because it was completely filled with water and left a huge gush of water on the ground, which was embarrassing. I was going to clean it up, but the luckily the guy at Planet Fitness said he'll take care of it. I was embarrassed, and I didn't want to put those guys to work. I'm like, I'm sorry. Anyway, so this was the replacement. Um, but speaking of the gym and Planet Fitness, that kind of gets me into what I want to talk about today, which is um, most men can't fight. And I purposely use the picture of Aaron the plumber because I think he's a grifter, and I think he kind of exemplifies the type of people who think they can fight and they can't. You know, guys who maybe more physically menacing, but at the end of the day, they really can't fight, and it would be very easy to see so once you put them pair them against someone who actually competes in combat sports. Thank you for the support. Um, so in any case, um, the title of this is "Stop the Cat." Most men can't fight because most men cannot fight. It's a it's a it's a running joke within combat sports about these guys who can't fight. They say, "Oh, once I see red, it's all over with. If I see red, then I'm gonna hurt somebody." No, you're not. If you see red, that just means you can't think when you get upset, and you're gonna be easily knocked out. Most men can't fight, and I'm going to keep reiterating that fact throughout this whole stream because of people like Aaron the plumber and people online who are keyboard warriors. You notice the people who can fight are usually the most modest dudes because they can fight and they have fought competitively. The last thing they want to do is get into an unnecessary fight. For one, they're not getting paid for it, and two, the um, they know all the in a street fight as compared to a fight in the ring or on the mat or in the octagon, there's so many factors that can change things around. You know, fighting on the street is asymmetric. So there's a lot of factors you can't control for, like the environment, like multiple people, like weapons, slippery surfaces, uh, being in a confined space, all these sorts of things. But the guy who's trained in competitive combat sports is going to have the edge over someone who just thinks they're tough. And some of these middle-aged guys have been watching Aaron the Plumber thinking they can fight just because they got muscles. So what? A lot of people who have muscles that get chopped up in prison. Just saying. Uh, Not to mention on the streets. That means nothing. No one cares how muscular you are unless you are Luke Cage and your skin is invulnerable to bullets and blades. If you are not Luke Cage or someone with similar capabilities, those muscles mean nothing. Besides that, a lot of and this goes out to the. I'm making Aaron. I'm using Aaron the plumber because I'm using him as a prototype of the gym bro, who thinks they're tough just because they hit the gym. First of all, most of you don't even run to go to the gym because you're so afraid that running is going to take away from your gains that you don't realize that doing cardio would actually improve your gains and make you a more well-rounded uh, physically fit person or athlete. um, who cares about all those muscles if we're hitting the Thai pads and after 30 seconds on the Thai pads you're so gassed that you have to take a 10-minute break. Meanwhile, I'm going on the Thai pads for 20 minutes. And like I said, if you're doing Muay Thai, you'll be a class might be around, about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And right before the class ends, the coach might be like, "All right, now I need 100 kicks on each leg, 100 kicks on each leg." These little muscle bound dummies like Aaron the plumber aren't gonna be able to survive that. And I just generally don't like him anyway because he's a grifter. He's embarrassing to young black guys. He fits the stereotype of a felon, of an ex felon type dude. Um, and he came on the social media bragging about having a job as a plumber and a journeyman plumber at that, which you have to study for and earn, which I completely believe he did do that, absolutely. But obviously, if you're on a dating show online, you don't really care about that anymore. You're probably trying to make a life as a social media star. And Brandon says someone has to say that has to if someone has to say they're strong, they are not. Yeah, more or less. He said the people who see red, quote unquote, are the most absurd thing. They act as though that's a good thing. A fight is just as mental as it is physical. If you're just swinging and taking hits, you're going down. Absolutely. The whole scene, that's what I'm saying. Like, it is a running joke. You probably already noticed. You sound like you probably train. You go to an MMA gym or kickboxing gym or Muay Thai gym or just like straight boxing, and you know they laugh at these sort of guys who have no training and think they're tough because they look menacing on the streets, and they talk about, oh, I get to see red. Like, You get to see red, that just means you aren't thinking straight. That's not a good thing. Like, yes, you're going to be more physically aroused when you are in a state of danger, potential danger, but the trained person can work past that so that they can do what needs to be done to protect themselves. Like, you're still, even a trained person, yes, will feel fear. The difference is they know how to work through it, whereas the person who has no training is not going to work through it. Color Green says, when do you start? When did I start learning martial arts? When I was 7. I didn't have a choice. My parents was like, took me, signed me up for a membership at the YMCA when I lived in Illinois. Said you had to learn how to swim and you have to learn self defense. So you know, swimming was non-negotiable, but they gave me a choice between judo and karate. I took judo thinking judo was easier. I was wrong. Judo is not easier of the two. Judo is actually tougher than karate, especially on the beginner on a especially on the beginner's level. Judo is pretty tough. Um, but it was fun though. It was fun. And for people who don't know, judo has submission ground and submission fighting like they have in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's just that that's just not the whole thing that they do. Whereas in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that's pretty much all they do. It's not until you get into the advanced belts in Brazilian jiu-jitsu they show you like the standing throws and takedowns. Whereas in judo, the emphasis is on standing throws and takedowns, but they also do ground fighting as well, which is called newaza. Um, but I have to admit, I can see why people love Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because the Newaza was the funnest part of judo because I actually got to roll with other kids. And I remember the first time we did Newaza, it was with this kid. He was like, I'm going to take you down. I was like, all right, yeah, we'll see. Like, we're like, 7 years old already talking shit to each other. So it was fun. But in any case, yeah, most guys can't fight. And if you've seen street fights, when you see people street fighting, they can't fight. You ever see people, I don't know what they, I don't know if this is just an urban thing or what, but you see some of these guys who, they go to fighting and they got their hands all the way up here. Like, why do you have your hands all the way up here? That doesn't make any sense. And they'll throw the punches like this. What, why? Like you're a windmill. Is that the windmill style? Like, I've seen people do that and it's so funny. They'll either have their hands all the way up or they'll have their hands all the way down, and they like dancing around like they Muhammad Ali, but they don't know what they're doing because all that the footwork should match. The footwork should match the attack. Like if you just dancing around, you gotta look silly. But yeah, I'll even see people with their hands all the way up like this, or they got them all the way down, to their waist, and they're just like dancing around. I'm like, what are you guys doing? I would just like, even as a kid, I just looked and I just laughed. Uh, Color Green says I watch UFC fights and always wish to have minimum basic skills, but there's no MMA gyms near me. Any advice? Yeah, I mean, um, what is available to you? That's the question. So if there's just traditional martial arts available to you, it's better than nothing. Or you can sign up for. There are a lot of coaches now who teach virtually, so you can do that. You can get virtual coaching, MMA Shredded, with Jeff Chan. Uh, he is a former UFC fighter. Uh, he former um, Muay Thai fighter, and he's a Muay Thai coach. And he has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He does virtual lessons. The Muay Thai guy Sean Fagan, he does virtual coaching. There's a lot of these guys, they have virtual coaching available. I would just look that up. I teach virtually as well sometimes. I do virtual lessons. A lot of people did, especially that virtual coaching became big during the pandemic because a lot of people either couldn't come in person to these gyms, or a lot of these gyms weren't allowed to, depending on what state they were in. So yeah, and yeah, it is for basic skills because obviously to get to more advanced intermediate skills, you actually have to be, be able to be with that, be with people and spar or roll. But to learn basic skills, yeah. Um, Even on this channel, I have some basics. I have a few videos for basic lessons. There's still another one I plan on doing for everyone, but right now the ones I have available are behind my membership paywall. So if you did that, it's like $2.99. I have a basic Muay Thai. This is a video for people who just want to learn some Muay Thai and train within the confined space of their bedroom. I show people how they can just train Muay Thai in the confines of their bedroom. Um, I do a stretching lesson, goes with the other video, so you can learn the little kickboxing hybrid Muay Thai lessons, the stretching. What else I have on there? The other one wasn't a lesson. It was just me showing how many push-ups I can do in one clip, which was bad because I had just eight, so I didn't get that many as I wanted. So, mm, but yeah, a lot of people, especially after 2020, started doing virtual coaching. Also, some people just have a DVD set you can buy. It used to, I don't know if they still do, but a lot of these places, when you bought the whole DVD set, there used to be like a correspondence you could send in after you've studied each DVD, so that they would give you a certificate for it. Because it would be like, because basically, like, viewing the DVDs and practicing the techniques would have been like tantamount to sort of like an online seminar. So they would, after you've shown that you could demonstrate what was shown in the DVDs, they would send people like a certificate, um, certifying that they've uh, um, learned those techniques in their DVD training sets. So I don't know if people. I think people still do that, but like I said, the bigger thing now is more the virtual coaching. There was another virtual coaching uh, that came with this heavy bag. So if you have a place you can set up a heavy bag, um, the heavy bag came with this virtual boxing, and it was promoted by Mike Tyson. Yeah, Mike Tyson. I forgot what it's called. It came out like 3, 4 years ago. It's still out, and you can buy it. So you buy the punching bag. It comes with the virtual boxing coaching, so that's good as well. Is it better than Seven, brother? Yeah. It's about how effective is it after all it's virtual. For basics is, I mean, but you're asking about basics. As far as basics, that's pretty good. Um, like I said, if you want to be like a serious martial artist, then you're gonna have to get like actual like in person coaching, and that can be one on one. So you can, for some people have deep pockets, so some of these people they can actually train with these people, and they'll charge you per session, which is usually about an hour or whatever, and depending on the coach and their reputation, it might be $100 or $200 per session, something like that. But again, if the virtual coaching is good, but if you want to actually get in some hands-on experience, then either you're gonna have to find a gym, or you're gonna have to fly out to these people and do some one-on-one coaching or attend their seminars. Some places overseas throw seminars for people. Thailand has that, like and Thailand has a student visa specifically for martial artists to go to Thailand and train at a gym for 3 months. And you can extend that student visa several times so that you can end up there, staying there for an entire year and train at a Muay Thai gym, like Tiger Gym. That's one of the most well known places. Tiger Muay Thai Gym. It was a sorry, yeah, Tiger Muay Thai Camp, Venom Training Camp, uh, Fairtax Training Camp. These are some of the most well known um, Muay Thai camps in the world. Most of them, like I said, in Thailand. And since Thailand has a like a 3 month student visa for people to go to these training facilities, it's worth the money because it's not that expensive to fly to Thailand. Your expenses aren't expensive either because it's pretty cheap living there. Mostly the expenses will go to training at the camp. What's up, Agatha? She says hi, sir. Just checking for a bit. Uh, Color Green says, so I have to move out of the desert in order to get to an MMA gym. Yeah, I don't know where you live, but I mean, there's MMA gyms everywhere nowadays. Like, I would hazard to say there's more MMA and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gyms nowadays than there are karate and taekwondo. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, every strip mall had like a karate or a taekwondo dojo. Nowadays, most strip malls have like a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or MMA type gym. So it just depends on your location. Location, location, location. Is it Thailand for you to learn Muay Thai? Sounds awesome. I know, right? I want to do it myself. Like I've taken a seminar in Muay Thai in Thailand, but that was for a day. That was like for an evening. I want to stay because in the coach even told me he's like, man, he's like you're a natural. He said you stay here. He said you stay here 2 weeks. He's I'll get you in a fight. I was like, wait, what? 2 weeks? I was like, oh, I'm just here. I was like, man, I'm just here on my on my honeymoon. I'm leaving this week. He was like, oh, you come back. I was like, all right. I haven't gone back yet, but yeah, if I go back, I'm definitely staying there for 3 months. It is in Pattaya. Pattaya is known for other things besides Muay Thai, but Venom Training Camp is available there too. So I would not uh, waste my energy on the other things Pattaya is known for. So, but yeah, if people have the luxury of being able to take off from work for several weeks and they want to learn to fight, Thailand is a perfect place. Like even if you're just there for 2 weeks, 2 weeks of training there is 2 weeks of training in a Muay Thai gym there is comparable to training here for several months. I think you're doing the nitty gritty there. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll get up 5 a.m., go running at 6 a.m. Then you start then you do your morning routine, eat a meal, start your do your afternoon routine, eat again, and depending on the gym, there might be an evening routine or you might be off for the day, and then you get up early again the next day. I would love to do that. And then you're off on Sundays. They always make you rest on Sunday. I'm hard headed. I'm still gonna run on Sundays, but other than that, I would other than running, I would rest because the intensity of the 6 days from Monday to Saturday, you're gonna probably want to rest even, even if you didn't plan on it. But back to which anyway, bring that back to my original conversation, which is, most men can't fight. Like I said, there's a lot of guys who think they can fight, and they, you know, got into brawls on the street, but you can see they can't really fight. The only reason they survive the encounter is because the other person they're fighting can't fight either. So that's why I'm making fun of Aaron the plumber, because he's on some reality show. I don't know what show it is, and he's always getting into fights. But all the people he's getting into fights with can't fight either. So a lot of people find him intimidating because he's muscular, and he's an ex-felon, I believe. So maybe he's had some skirmishes in the, when he was locked up. But being locked up doesn't mean you can fight either. Most of those guys just hit the gym, like just they just hit the gym every day, hit the library every day, or what, I don't know, play chess and watch TV. Like it's not like the show. It's not like most movies where it's always going down every day. So, but yeah, but people saying they see red is a red flag that they can't fight. There's no one who can fight can be like, oh, I see red. Better watch out when I see red. Like, okay, what are you, a bull? Like, and again, and also again, don't be intimidated by people with big muscles. That doesn't mean they can fight. That just means they lift weights. Lifting weights does not mean you can fight. I don't know how many times that's been proven. And again, unless their muscles are made of the same fiber that Luke Cage skin is, it's not going to help against someone carrying, because that's another issue with these people saying, "Oh, don't be like these guys watching Aaron the plumber and getting themselves all hyped up, thinking they can beat people up." I don't know where some people live, but where I live, everyone's carrying something. Like you, you should expect that on the street, that most people who are bold enough to attack someone are probably carrying a weapon, unless they're attacking you in packs. And even if they're attacking in packs, you still should assume that someone within that pack is carrying something. That makes you more. That's gonna make you more apprehensive about engaging in street fights, because you don't know how it's gonna go down. And anyone claiming, well, I haven't competed, but I've been in a lot of street fights, that's not a flex. First of all, there's no way to verify how many street fights someone's been in, if they've been in any. And shout out to Michael Jai White on that one, because yeah, you're not. It's like you're not impressing anyone saying I've been in a bunch of street fights, because you can't publicly verify a street fight unless someone put it put it on camera and uploaded it to the internet. Like, there's no way to verify you've been in dozens of fights. Does it have a nice night? Hope you've had a nice Monday. Oh, hope you have a nice Monday. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Um, then the other problem with someone who says I've been in a bunch of fights, being in a bunch of fights doesn't mean you can fight. It just means you're a disagreeable person. Like, being in a bunch of fights just means that you probably get on a lot of people's nerves. That's not a bragging point. Like, most grown men should be able to work their way through altercations without it erupting into a fight. Even in a potentially volatile situation, there there's more there are more things to do besides fight or flight. The whole fight or flight is a false dilemma. Like, most people confuse the fight or flight response with there being only two things to do: fight or flight. You can there First of all, as far as flight is concerned, aka running, if you are not trained in evasive running and you are not physically fit, running is not going to do you a bit of good. Mona says those that have trained even a little bit can tell that those are all bark and no bite, in my opinion. Exactly. But yeah, so the whole fight or flight response. So people are confusing the parasympathetic response. That's the the sciencey word for it, the parasympathetic response, fight or flight, so called, with there only being those two choices in a violent altercation. No, you can run if you can, and you can fight, but there's other things you can do too. You you can just back down. You can be like, you got it, big guy. I don't want anything. I'm a bitch. You got it. I don't want this fight. Notice most trained fighters are gonna choose that. They're gonna be like, you got it, man. I don't even want to fight. You got it. You're the man. You can do that. Other people might call for help. You can call for help if you think there's someone who's willing to help and available to help. You can call for help. That's another thing. Um, Another thing is you can try to call it bluff. I don't think that's a good idea, but you can call it. You can try to call it bluff and be like, "Man, I'll f you up. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?" Like, that's not a good. I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good choice, but that is another option. Or, um, or or you could try to talk them down. Like, you know what, man? I'm sorry. We good? We cool? You know, try to talk them down. If you think they're a rational person, obviously, if this is a person who is not sober, that's not going to work. So you can't try to talk down a reason to a person who is uh, either not who is either not sober or in a fit of rage. Like they're obviously not going to be have like, the capacity to reason. So got to understand that situation. The other the other option is just not be in a position in a compromising position in the first place. That comes with situational awareness. You go somewhere, it looks sketch, you leave. Like Diddy's mansion. Once you shouldn't be at Diddy's mansion after 10 p.m. Just saying. Denzel said he wouldn't stay there after what not I think Denzel said he left like 9:30. He wasn't staying at Diddy's house that late. So you situational awareness, stay out of a compromising situation in the first place. Um, so there are other options besides fight or flight. And like I said, the person who's always going to choose to fight doesn't necessarily mean they are a skilled fighter. That just means they are a disagreeable person who likes getting into physical altercations. So even if Michael Jai White was telling the truth that he's been in a lot of street fights, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a good fighter. It just means he likes getting into trouble. Um, and then the third thing is, and I want to recap since I just had that long tangent. Like I said, the first thing is you can't publicly verify street fights unless someone's uploaded them online for everyone to see, like World Star. Two is that just because they've been in a lot of street fights doesn't mean they're actual skilled fighter. That just means that they don't know how to get along with people. And three, and the third thing is the third. That one might be four things. Well, the third thing is street fighting and combat sports aren't the same thing. So let's take let's assume that the person is actually telling the truth that they've been in street fights. Um, Again, that doesn't mean they're a skilled fighter. Someone who's a combat sports athlete is well trained, whereas someone who's been through street fights could have just been lucky, or they could have been the one who was the aggressor, picking on someone else. So that's not a good gauge of whether that person can fight. Emily says, "Yeah, I understand if it's 1 on 5 and one walks away, like, all right, y'all got this. Those situations expected. Uh, these are those situations, especially for females. I say carry bear spray is worse than pepper spray. Yeah, but you got to know the legality of those things too. So I'm not going to tell someone carry bear spray because I don't know the legality of it. What I would say is pepper spray is very effective. Bear spray is like taking it up a notch when it may not be. Depending on the situation, you might get yourself in trouble spraying someone with bear spray because the court may look at it like that was an unnecessary uh, provocation. Um, Pepper spray is usually going to be justified in most instances if it's self defense. Um, but that gets into like carrying everyday carry weapons. Pepper spray is very useful, men or women. Uh, uh, attack attack pen, which um, those those just like I tell people about the flashlights, those little pens are very useful. Like this, for instance. So tactical pens, tactical flashlights, they're something you can walk around with in your hand and no one think it looks weird because you're just carrying a pen. So they can be used very well in self-defense situations. And again, these are unisex items. The pepper spray, the tactical pen, the tactical flashlight. The tactical flashlight, one has a blunt end on it so that you can strike someone with, but it also has a blinding light that can temporarily blind someone, or you could use a strobe light to disorient them. So some of them have the strobe light function. Mine has the strobe light function. It also has the straight focus that you can beam in someone's eyes to temporarily blind them, and then the edge of the rim of the flashlight is serrated so you can do damage by hitting them with it. A good EDC weapon is also a pocket knife. The problem with that is you can potentially get yourself in a lot of legal trouble using a bladed weapon against someone. And even if you are justified in using a bladed weapon in the certain altercations, there's also the issue that most people really don't have the heart to stab someone. I do, just because I'm violent, and if someone attacks me, I really don't have any. I really don't care about their health anymore. So I don't mind the slashing and the gutting because I'm messed up in that way. But most people wouldn't have it in them to actually stab or slice someone. So I don't really. When I do recommend the pocket knife to someone, I recommend it usually as a multifunctional tool, not so much as a weapon. Like you might need the blade so that you can cut someone out of a seatbelt, like during a nasty car crash, or you can use it to cut open letters or old fashioned books where you got to cut the pages open. If you know if you're a book lover like myself, you know what I'm talking about, like the old fashioned books where you cut the pages open. um, like I said, pepper spray works very effectively. Walking like I said, all these type of EDC weapons you can walk with in your hand and it doesn't look weird. You can carry the flashlight in your hand, the pen, the pepper spray, and some people are like, well, someone will be looking at me like, why do you have that in your hand? If they're that close enough to see what's in your hand, they're too close to you. That's why I always tell people, like, if you're worried that someone's gonna see you walking with something potentially dangerous in your hand, like a pepper spray or a flashlight, they're probably too close to you. Besides that, those sort of things are normal just have in your hand anyway. And of course, the most lethal EDC is to have a concealed carry or open carry or a constitutional carry firearm on you. There's different legal situations for open carry, closed carry, I mean concealed carry, and constitutional carry. Now, in places where there does, in states where they do allow open carry, I don't like that. I prefer concealed carry because open carry invites problems. So I don't want to get into that. But again, a lot, and related to people can't fight. A lot of people can't shoot. Like a lot of people will get their weapon permit. Um, you know, get they might even get their concealed carry, and they had their concealed carry firearm, and then they never train with it. They never train with it. Some who do train, they might go every 4 or 5 months to the range, if that. Most let's be honest, a lot of firearm, a lot of gun owners don't train enough with their weapons. And even if they do go to the range, that's really not enough for self defense. My friend who watches my videos can tell you that. I'm actually going to attend one of his seminars um, tomorrow. Actually, I'll ask. I want to shout out his business and let me, unless he wants me to. I'll ask him next time I talk to him. Because hopefully he'll see this video. But if he wants, I'll definitely shout out his um his business because he is a licensed certified um, self defense and tactical firearm instructor. Um, so I'm gonna attend one of his lessons tomorrow. Um, but yeah, well, getting back to my point, just like with as it comes with martial arts and self defense, you have to train to be able to use it in a self defense situation or in a competition situation. With firearms, you have to train with them to be able to use them in a self defense capacity. And just going to the range isn't enough. Going to the range and firing at stationary targets, when it comes to firearms, is like it would be like with martial arts only doing shadow boxing and katas. Like, yes, katas are good for rehearsing your techniques, as are shadow boxing, which is way more effective than katas. But both of them are going to be insufficient to. I mean, obviously they're better than nothing, right? Just like going to the range is better than nothing, but they're all inferior to actually getting some hands-on training. So in martial arts with hands-on training, that means sparring, sparring, maybe some competition, even really high-level Thai pad training can be as good as sparring, if not better. Like when you're at a when you're at a very high level of as a fighter, some of them substitute Thai pad training for sparring, but for most people, sparring is going to be the litmus test, right? And for firearms, it's going to be tactical firearm training, like being able to move around with your weapon to actually, like take your weapon out, take your weapon out and live fire on a moving target, that sort of thing. Like moving around obstacles, being able to draw your weapon from different angles while standing, while sitting, while maybe in a prone position or lying down, um, against shooting a moving target, um, trying to shoot when someone is trying to stop you from shooting them, which is going to um, mean you're going to have to learn some hand to hand combat training while using your weapon. Okay. And another thing that people can do to get in some training when they're not at the range is dry fire training. There are systems that you can buy that you can hook up to your firearm so that you can practice dry fires, like say around your house or in your house, stuff like that, to prepare for like someone breaking into your house or an altercation in the parking lot. You can practice dry fires. Dry fire means that you're like not actually shooting shooting, bullets. Um, and you have these electronic, the really nice ones are the electronic dry fire systems that can actually let you engage using red dot or whatever and showing that you hit or missed the target, stuff like that. So you have some really nice dry fire systems out there to practice with. Hamilton says people like you don't go picking fights because you know that you're gonna hurt them. It's not that. Well, it's not like. Well, it's not that I don't go picking fights because I know I can hurt that because I know that I can hurt someone. It's the fact that I don't pick fights because I know how unpredictable fights are, and I don't want to get involved in something this unpredictable. Like fighting in the ring is different because there's a predictability to it, but street fighting is asymmetric and there's so many uncontrollable factors. This is why most people who are actually trained in fighting don't want to get into fights in real life because they know how unpredictable fights can go and aren't really willing to risk their careers or their freedom just to show how tough they are, even though they know, 9 times out of 10, the person who's being kind of abrasive towards them, they could probably beat their ass. But again, most trained fighters are gonna be like, I don't want any problems, brother. You got it. I'm like that for the most part. I remember some altercation. Well, it wasn't altercation, but I remember a friend and I. We were outside of McDonald's. Um, I think we were waiting for a bus or something, and some guy, he looked like he was high or just he was wilding out. He started, you know, like trying to threaten people. He went to the gas station, started threatening some people at the gas station. Then he was walking around. A bus came by. He threatened the bus driver. I'm like, yeah, he's high. I was like, this motherfucker must be high. Like the guy pulled up. He's like, get out of here, bus driver. Blah blah blah. I'm like, what is he doing? What is he carrying on about? Mind you, I didn't really care. I'm just sitting there eating my McDonald's what's the ice cream that they people always claim that that the ice cream machine is always broke that they never have the 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 um the flurries. I had a flurry, so I'm enjoying life. I'm eating my flurry. You know what I'm saying? Pause. But I'm eating my Oreo flurry, and then the guy comes up to us, and he's sizing us up, and he come up on me saying something crazy. I just look at him. I'm steadily eating ice cream. I'm just looking at him, and he realizes I'm not scared of him, so he takes it down a notch because and maybe he's not high because something in him clicked, something in his mind clicked like this guy isn't scared of me. So either that meant that I'm probably scarier, and to be sure, I I had weapons on me, I had my EDC on me, but also because we were sitting, I mean, we were standing right at the sidewalk at this bus station. I would have easily just teeped him right into the middle of the street and let the cars take care of him. So I wasn't worried. I was just I, the only reason he would have got me to attack him is if he messed with my flurry because I was enjoying my Oreo flurry, my Oreo McFlurry. Yeah. So honestly, messing with my McFlurry, I was good. I was just looking at him like, which is what you should do, which is also a self defense lesson for you guys. It seems random, but it actually works. So when someone when when someone is aggressively looking at you, sizing you up, and you turn away, that makes you look like a potential target that they can victimize. If someone is sizing you up, like and you like looking at you like they want to hurt you, don't turn away. Look them dead in the eye And I don't mean aggressively. I wasn't looking at the guy aggressively. I just looked back at him like, I see what you're doing. It's not working. But if you just stare back at them, they realize, oh, okay, this not guy's not a target, or he's probably gonna give me give, give me, or the guy's like, okay, he's probably gonna give me some pushback if I try to attack him. So like I said, I'm eating my flurry and I'm just looking at him like, and he backed down. So I didn't have to kick his ass. Plus, I have my friend right next to me. He's also carrying weapons and he's also a certified instructor. So we both would have beat the ever living crap out of him if he tried something. But I guess I don't know if he was high or what, but he sobered up quickly. He realized I wasn't the one. So that is that is the mark of someone you know who's trained to fight, not someone who's gonna be braggadocious or saying, "Come on, man, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight." It's gonna be the calm person who's just like, "Okay," and they're usually gonna be the ones who's gonna try to like talk it down, like, nah, man, you got it. I don't want to fight. You got it, big dog. And usually, usually the guy who's being the provocateur is going to try to huff and puff, be like, yeah, you better, man, you better, bitch out, or whatever. Try to make themselves look better because you don't want to fight them. And they, in the back of their mind, they know that the reason you're like not trying to fight them is it's not because you're scared, it's because you don't want to get into any unnecessary legal altercations. But they want to look bigger, so you just let them. They be like, yeah, this, you better back down, you little bit. Yeah, yep, you're right, man. You got it. You're absolutely right. Let them go about their business, because more than likely this person is a loser anyway. So good, they got their oats rolled. That right? Okay. Meanwhile, you gotta get life. So, but the guy who's willing to throw it all to the wind to go into a fight like Aaron the plumber, loser. Color Green says street fighting is between two amateurs. Even if they can verify the fights, they cannot verify opponent's skills. Yeah, like I said, people have challenged me on here, believe it or not, as my moderators. And I was like, set up the fight, I'll do it. But the thing is, I'm not stupid. Like, we're gonna set up a fight with rules to cover me on my legal end. Plus, like I said, I'm gonna videotape it so that I can put it up here for you guys to watch, for it to give it entertainment value. That's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how can I how can I monetize this situation and add to my credibility as someone who's a self defense coach. But most people, when I tell them that, then they back down. Like every time, like the guys have backed down. Like, oh man, you don't really want to fight. But I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, set it up. Let's go. They back down because they're full of shit. And this happened every single time. Cat says hi. What's up? Melissa says, I mean, we are humble. Is my point, unless they are overly provoked. Yeah, true. He said in McFlurry, yep, no cap. He's I eat ice cream with a spoon because my homie roasted me like when we were teenagers. Said it looked mad sus. Well, the McFlurry comes with. Well, they changed it now because I just had a McFlurry a month or 2 months ago. So they changed how the McFlurry looks. It's been so damn long since I had a McFlurry. They changed the cup and the spoon. But remember, so this was I'm talking about the old fashioned McFlurry. This was like 5 years ago, six. No, it was about 6 years ago now. That's how long ago it was. Damn. So 6 years ago, and the old fashioned McFlurry, the spoon was also the thing they mix it with, so it looks sort of like a spork. Looks like a clear spork. So that was that old fashioned McFlurry. So that one, that McFlurry spoon doesn't look sus. To me, what looks sus is like a shake, like the shake when you like the shake is thick, so you like slurping the shit out of it trying to get it through the straw. And that looks sus because your whole cheeks are sunken in, like you like trying to. That looks sus. Like the McDonald's shakes will have you like exercising your whole mandibular region. So Cat says, "LOL, nothing wrong with licking an ice cream." He's- he's- It's not- well, it says, he said he's put out an open challenge multiple times. No one has accepted. Enough said. Yeah, I've literally put out on my live streams, on YouTube Shorts, and like, because these people come in my comment section like, "Yeah, man, let's set it up, let's do it." I'm like, "All right," and they bitch out every single time. I'm like, "Let's do it," because I want to record it. I keep telling them, I was like, the proviso is I will be recording this. So whichever way it goes, this is gonna go. This is gonna get uploaded. I think that's what scares them. Is the I don't know what scares them more, the fact that I'm like the fact that I'm willing to do it, or the fact that I want to record it. I don't know which one scares them more. Kat says once of the joys in life. That's how. That's what she said, guys. Again, I'm not. You don't see me disagreeing, do you? Melissa, put your Werther's originals back in the purse. What? Speaking of another, oh, that gets me into other signs that people can't fight. If you're walking around with your pants hanging off your ass, you can't fight. Because literally, how are you gonna fight when you can't even keep your pants up? What do you like? I'm not even a BJJ person, but I can imagine exactly what a BJJ person would do, seeing someone with that pants pulled down that way. More than likely, they're just gonna go in through it for a double leg takedown. It would be the easiest thing for someone who got their pants hanging halfway off the ass is just to shoot for a double leg takedown, and I wouldn't blame them. I'm not a double leg takedown sort of person, just because I don't like going to the ground unless I have to, and also I prefer to just strike you in the face. I think a nice punch to the face usually ends most altercations. But for these guys who got their pants hanging off the ass, a double leg takedown is a very good way to a good way to end the fight with someone. You just suck those cheeks in. You see, you make me say, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be good. Militants also don't fight in a hoodie or baggy jackets. You give us too much of an advantage. I mean, yeah, but I mean, loose clothing is just kind of unavoidable depending on the time of the year. I mean, yes, anyone trained in grappling can probably use your clothes against you, like they can affect what you call that stranglehold when you grab each and you choke someone out with their clothing, or you can use it to twist it and go through a takedown. Kind of unavoidable. What I would say is long hair is a disadvantage to men, and I made a whole YouTube short about that, and I was actually expecting to get a lot of pushback from younger guys, but most people didn't give me pushback because I was saying, guy, I was telling black men stop with the dreadlocks. I was like, those dreadlocks are going to make you vulnerable to someone who wants to attack you. Because the first thing people are going to do when you have dreadlocks or long hair is they're going to grab you by the hair. Even girls do it. Girls grab each other by the hair when they get into fights all the time. Women will grab each other by the hair and start punch. They'll grab you with one hand and start punching with the other hand. I've seen that a bunch of times. Or they'll just grab the girl by her hair and drag her down to the ground. And they do this. They do this with guys with dreadlocks too. What's worse is with the dreadlocks. Sometimes they tear the locks out of their hair, and that's that's worse. Moon says that's why we shave in the army. Yeah. Well, I mean not shave, but you mean keep a like keep a short and tight haircut. But yeah, um, But yeah, that was my other self defense tip. I was telling guys stop wearing long hair if you are worried about potentially get getting into an attack. Like, I mean, I do have my certain biases against locks in a man hair. Thinks I just think it doesn't look as masculine, and e- e- but besides my own biases of locks not looking particularly masculine, my other problem with it is it doesn't look professional. And people can argue all they want about whether it is or isn't, but Kevin Samuels told black men why the dreadlocks aren't a great thing unless you are self-employed, because it in most corporate firms have a conservative nature. The whole conservative look is the uniform for a corporate firm. That is your quote unquote uniform. Short hair, clean shaved face, um, well tailored suit. You know, and a lot of guys buck against that. And it's like, okay, cool. If you don't like that, then work somewhere where they have a more casual attire acceptable. But don't get mad if you don't get the job because you don't fit that look. Also, if you got the job by cutting, by shaving and cutting your hair, then it's bad. Don't then after you get the job get comfortable and then grow it back in, because that used to be the recommendation when I was in college. And yes, I realize this is over 20 years ago, but a lot of the brothers back then used to say, okay, guys, for the before you go to interview, make sure you're clean shaven and you cut your hair so that you can get the job. And then once you get the job, then you can let it grow. That was bad advice, because whatever it took for you to get the job, you need to keep maintain that image to keep that job. So whatever it took to get that job is what you need to do to keep that job. It's like in a relationship. Whatever you did to get into a relationship with that person, you need to keep doing to maintain that relationship. You don't come into a relationship being all hot and sexy, then as soon as you get the person, you add 100 pounds and start going, you know, knee deep in a KFC bucket like you bobbing for apples. Like, that's not good. So whatever whatever it took to get into that relationship, you should keep doing to maintain that relationship. Likewise with a job, whatever it took you to get that job, you need to keep doing to maintain that job. If there's a certain clean cut image that they want to portray with that firm, you need to maintain that image, or you're not going to get any further. Like, they're probably like, if you're a good worker, obviously they're not going to take the job from you because they understand your worth to the job. But at the same time, you're not going to get any further in that firm because you want to buck against what they represent as far as the image they want to portray. Like, if you came in looking like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a good image, or someone. But yeah, if you came in with like a nice image, like you look like Boris Kojo coming into the job, and then then once you then like 5 years into the job, then you switch your look from looking like Boris Kojo to looking like looking like a Rastafari, you know, then that's you're hurting yourself professionally. And like I said, beyond the pragmatics of maintaining a clean cut image for like professional situations, again, you don't want dreads if you are in an environment where you might get into a fight, or if you're a competitive fighter. Because in both situations, whether in the street or in competition, the first thing people are gonna do is grab your hair. I mean, maybe you don't have to deal with that in boxing, but in MMA where you have gloves where you can grab people, they're gonna grab it. So, uh, is that back to Kappa slap bragging about street fights instead of sparring or actual fights is childish. Michael Jai White does it often. He's good, but not great. Yeah. So were you in the stream when I was talking about that Moonlit? Yeah, he. That's why, because a friend was asking me about what I think about him, and I was like, Michael Jai White is a great martial artist, but he needs to stop the cap when he's talking about how he's a great fighter. Because the only thing he has to go on is that he used to he said he's been in street fights, and I think he said he used to be a bouncer or something at some point. Now, again, he may be telling the truth, but there's no way to public verify street fights. And even if you can, just because you get into a lot of street fights doesn't mean you're a skilled fighter. That just means either if you're a bouncer, like they were, like part of your job, cool, or you're just a disagreeable person. And then third, assuming that you did actually get into street fights, that doesn't necessarily translate into someone who's trained as a combat sports athlete. Because another problem Michael Jai White would say is that he would upload videos of him sparring with MMA competitors, but then he would claim that this is him fighting this person. And you sparring with an MMA fighter does not mean that you guys are actually fighting. Sparring is a training. Sparring is training. It's not fighting. If it was fighting, they would just call it fighting. But you're just playfully sparring with MMA competitors. You're not actually fighting them. So Michael Jai White is he 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 tends to cap. Just like when he was talking about, I think he said he could beat Bruce Lee in one thing, and it's like, dude, neither one of you are competitive fighters. But if you're just talking about your weight advantage over him, sure. But it's like, stop the cap, dude. Like, you are not a trained fighter. You're a classically trained martial artist. He holds multiple black belts, sure. And again, he sparred with people in MMA, but he's never competed himself. So he's full of shit. Melissa says, I don't want to spar him or Sean or O'Malley or Connor or Brock. However, I love to train with them. Oh, I'll spar with anyone. I don't care who they are, because again, sparring is not all out fighting. Like the closest sparring gets to fighting is hard sparring. Even hard sparring, you pull back a little bit. In hard sparring, you're not supposed to be knocking people out. Like in hard sparring, you're still not going 100% at the head. I would say in hard sparring, maybe 50% force to the head, like 80 to 100% to the body. But hard sparring, now in boxing, that's different. Box, hard sparring and boxing can be an all-out brawl. I'll give you that. But usually, when it comes to kickboxing and Muay Thai and MMA, hard sparring is not the same because those people don't want to be injured prior to a fight, and you, MMA and Muay Thai, you're more prone to getting injured prior to a fight if you hard spar. In Muay Thai, there is hard sparring, but most of the time in Muay Thai, they do a lot of light sparring or playful sparring. Moon says, "Yeah, I think Michael Jai White is full of crap." Again, he is a great martial artist. I won't take that away from him, but he's not a fighter. And as far as how bad of a dude he was back in the day, as a street fighter or bouncer or whatever. And we don't have any way to verify that. Only he and the people who were around at the time know whether that was true or not. Because the guy Richie Mack from Zuna, Thailand, is friends with him, so he believes everything Michael Jai White tells him. And apparently, they may have known each other back when they both lived in California. So he claims that Michael Jai White is telling the truth, but I don't know. I can't go on hearsay, especially when it comes to combat. Unless there's people that don't know he was in a Ninja Turtle movie trying to join the Foot Clan. He was? I know he was in a Toxic Avenger movie, Toxic Avenger 2. No, 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 no. Was that him? Uh, yeah, I think that was Michael Jai White in the old Toxic Avenger movie in the late 80s. I also remember he played Mike Tyson in the HBO, the made for HBO movie back in the mid 90s. I actually think he did a better job playing Mike Tyson than that Mike Tyson movie that came out on Hulu 2 years ago. That movie was hard. No, that Hulu series was horrible. It was like a Hulu mini series about Mike Tyson. It was so bad. Like it, I couldn't get, I couldn't, I couldn't get past the second episode. It was just so bad. But when Michael Jai White played Mike Tyson in the HBO movie, that was pretty good. He say he's good at Muay Thai. I've seen him kick. That's not Muay Thai, but I still wouldn't want to get kicked or struck. Omar says blood. Bruce Lee be able to beat up Mike Tyson? No. Mike Tyson was a. I mean, first of all, they were in two different weight classes. Weight classes means a lot in competitive sports, in combat sports. Weight difference is very very important. Bruce Lee coming in at 100, what, like 137 pounds, 5'7". He would be a I mean, he would have been a welterweight, and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to fight at his natural weight. He probably would have come down. But let's say he fought at his natural weight, at 130, I think like 137 pounds or something like that. He would have been, uh, I think, a welterweight, um, or either welterweight or a super lightweight. Mike Tyson was a heavyweight, and he was the heavyweight champion. He had earned an Olympic gold medal in boxing at the age of 16 or 17 before he went before he went pro, and was one of the youngest heavyweight champions when he became pro. So, I must be stepping on a cord here. Hold up. Yeah, let me take that charging cord off. Um, so no, and again, Bruce Lee didn't compete. Bruce Lee was a very accomplished martial artist, and he can fight. He could fight. Sorry. Um, Shijo. I should use his title because I come under his um, family of arts that he practicing Jeet Kune Do. But so Shijo Bruce Lee, for me, I call him Shijo. He wasn't a competitive fighter, so no, he wouldn't have beat Mike Tyson, not at all. One, they're just in completely different weight classes. Bruce at his heaviest would have been a welterweight. Mike Tyson was a heavyweight. Bruce Lee didn't competitively fight. The is only record we have of him fighting was in high school he when he did a Golden Gloves. Uh, he fought as a Golden Gloves amateur boxer in high school. and he also he did a he did some sparring with his friend Dan Inosanto at the Ed Parker Long Beach tournament. So that was him sparring, but it wasn't like competition. He was just demonstrating his art. However, he did train actual competitive fighters at the time. He trained Joe Louis, who was the founder of American kickboxing and full contact karate. And it's through his training with Bruce Lee that he went on to establish American kickboxing and full contact karate because he was originally a point karate champion and he thought that point karate was very artificial. So he went on at the Ed Parker tournament to demonstrate full contact karate, which became American kickboxing. Um, Bruce also taught Mike Stone, who's still alive today, living in the Philippines. Uh, Hopefully, I can meet him when I go back. Uh, he was another karate champion that Bruce taught. Mind you, he taught these people when they were already champions. So to have three guys come up to him who are already like champions in their field and say, "Now can you show us some real moves?" That speaks very highly of Bruce, of Shijo Bruce. The third person obviously was Chuck Norris. Now Chuck Norris said that they trained each other, but in Bruce Lee's diary, it was pretty clear that Chuck was one of his students at the time, and became a friend of his. That's why he invited him to play his nemesis in the movie Return of the Dragon, which was originally Way of the Dragon in China, but here it was called Return of the Dragon because it came out after the release of Into the Dragon here in the American audience. But anyway, these guys were karate champions and they came to Bruce and learned from him, which shows that what he was teaching was effective. If you have people who are already at the top of their game coming saying, hey, "Can you show us something a little bit better?" But Bruce himself was not a competitive fighter. Mike Tyson was, and yes, Mike Tyson would have decisively beaten him, especially when Bruce's background art wasn't boxing. He studied boxing and incorporated it into his arts, John Fan Gung Fu and Jeet Kune Do. But um, they his background art was Wing Chun, Kung Fu, and so of course Mike Tyson would have had the weight advantage on him and the advantage of experience in boxing. So no, Bruce wouldn't have won. that to think so would be unrealistic. One says you would spar with Brock. Damn, that's gonna hurt. I mean, sparring again. Sparring isn't supposed to be brutal. Yeah, it hurt, but that's kind of the point to get used to the pain. Brock, like Brock, is not going to beat me up if we're just sparring. That's what I'm saying. Like, sparring isn't meant to be. Sparring isn't meant to. And this is what I was explaining to my friend too, who said he used to train in Kempo karate and talked about how they were beating each other up when they were sparring. I was like, that shows they don't know how to spar because in sparring you're not supposed to be beating each other up. Sparring is training so that you can get ready for actual competition. And I was like, often the martial arts schools where they're beating each up and sparring shows they lack control and aren't good fighters. Because usually in MMA and in Muay Thai, they do a lot of light sparring. Is in what scenario? Boxing, no. MMA, yes. Bruce wins. Well, again, Tyson would be out of his element in MMA. Different rule set, different techniques, but he still would have the advantage on Bruce because it's a weight advantage. He's a heavyweight. I don't think people realize this size matters when it comes to fighting. Um, I think too many of us have gotten used to unrealistic martial arts movies where you have a little 5'6" Chinese man beating up 300 pound 6'4" men and thinking that's realistic. It's just as unrealistic as watching MCU movies, seeing Black Widow, someone who's like 120 pounds beating up multiple men. Like that's not real life. And no, so Bruce could be more talented than Mike Tyson in say MMA, since Jeet Kune Do, uh, since Bruce is often called the father of MMA. But given Mike Tyson like 6 months of training in MMA, he would be still most likely the victor because he has a weight advantage. He's a heavyweight. Bruce is a Bruce was a welterweight at best, but usually he had trouble keeping on his weight, so he would have been a lightweight or a welterweight at best, like probably a super lightweight if they have that category. Some places have super lightweight, some don't. He's not going to win. It's for the same reason that it's for the same reason that a female MMA champion probably couldn't beat a big a big a big untrained man in real life, because most of these female MMA fighters are straw weights. Like a straw weight, like they're like 102 pounds or something like that, and you're gonna beat up a 250-pound man? No. Even if he's untrained and she's the the champion in her field, size matters. A 102-pound woman is not beating up a 250-pound man, even if he's untrained. Moon says like, share, and sub everyone. Please share, super chat as well. Um, buy Contrarian a coffee with Doritos. Oh, he said there's a quick scene where the foot soldiers are recruiting and Michael Jai White was right there in the lineup. No, I believe. No, I can. I definitely believe you, because he's had a lot of little quick cameo appearances before he got big. Like I said, he had a cameo. Well, not a cameo because he wasn't known back then, but you know what I mean. He had a a quick appearance in Toxic Avengers as well. I was like, oh shit, that's Michael Jai White. That's before I knew who he was, though. I think it was Michael Jai White. It was either Michael Jai White or the guy uh, from Martin they used to call Pretty Ricky. Say Pretty Ricky, what they used to call him. But what time is it? Oh yeah, I'm about to end this, guys. It's getting late. But yeah, guys, most men can't fight. um, if you hear someone saying, "If I see red, you better run," laugh at that man because he can't fight. If he sees red, how is he going to be able to fight you? That means that he's so. That means that he's so. He he's so. His arousal level is so high that he can't think straight, because in a frightening situation, here's what happens. Some of you experienced this who've been in fights. You get a shortness of breath. This is why cardio is so important, guys. Having that cardio is so much is so vital in a physically dangerous situation where this sorts of things happen. Because like I said, so in a fight situation, all of a sudden your you get tunnel vision. Like pretty much you can only focus on things right in front of you. You get this tunnel vision. You get this shortness of breath, right? And things seem to be happening in the sort of like this in this sort of time time seems different. like I said, and this happens to all of us, even trained fighters. Like what we're learning to fight through that. Like we're learning to get past that, especially if you train so much that your techniques just become like instinctual. This is why you have to train, so that throwing a punch or throwing a kick, slipping a punch, bobbing, weaving, all this just is just instinctual. You don't have to think it. But in the immediacy of a fight, a lot of us experiences, right? You get this tunnel vision, you get this shortness of breath. Um, there seems to be this sort of time lapse, and if you can't orient yourself in that situation, you're done. So a person talking about they see red, that just means they can't function in that sort of scenario. That gives you the advantage, not the disadvantage. I don't know why people would brag about saying they see red when they get angry. So nigga, that mean that means you don't. That means you're vulnerable. If you see red and I can still think straight and I'm trained, what do you think is the better situation? Like a lot of these people talking about they see red are trying to um are trying to seem menacing, especially if they are physically more impressive than you are. I'll see red. I'll see red. I'm, I'm what? Like, no, you're not. You see red. You throw a punch. Uh, good luck with that. Good luck with that. That's all I gotta say. Good luck with it. I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna do, but hey, good luck with that. May the odds be forever in your favor. So, and that's not a Sikh hill for you, anyway. But yeah, but yeah, when people tell you they see red when they fight, that just means they can't fight. And like I said, most guys think they can fight and they cannot fight. Like, cause I might do this one day and just walk around and ask people this, particularly guys. I'll ask men this, but I think MMA. Jeff Chan did on his channel MMA Shredded. He and I think Icy Mike from Hard to Hurt walked up to people and asked them did they think they can fight. But they were in New York City where it's not very masculine men, so most of them were honest and said probably not. So, but if in somewhere else where people are more likely to bluster, they might say yeah they can fight. But then the follow up is okay. Well, do you train? And almost all of them will say they don't train. So you can't fight if you don't train to fight. That's like saying you know how to drive and you never went to driving school, and you've never like yeah, but I know in that situation, if I have to, I can drive. That's how stupid that sounds. A person who's a person who's never driven or only driven once or twice, telling you they can drive well or just drive, or they can just drive, right? And they don't drive. That's about as that's as stupid as people saying they can fight and they've never trained. It's the exact same thing. Moonless says if it's not boxing, I think Bruce Lee wins. Eat the legs and liver and kidneys up with speed and reach. If it's just boxing, Tyson eats Lee for breakfast. Mm, no, like I said, given all things being equal, Mike Tyson's always going to win just because he's physically just a much bigger person than Bruce. I think Bruce would say that himself. Bruce 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 is very Bruce haven't been in altercations because he did used to get into street fights when he was a kid because he in Hong Kong he used to get into trouble, which is one of the reasons he came to America in the first place to get out of trouble. Um, he would have been realistic about the situation, about someone's size. advantage over him. That's kind of what changed his martial arts. I don't know if I spoke about this in other videos that I've talked about the evolution of Bruce Lee's martial arts, but the reason he kind of abandoned Wing Chun is because he realized it doesn't work on much bigger men. He, like I said, so he was a very pragmatic person when it came to fighting. Like when he first came to America, he was teaching what was mostly Wing Chun at the time. He called it at the time he just called it the art of Kung Fu, which it was mostly Wing Chun mixed with like some other um, traditional Chinese martial arts. But it was like 80% Wing Chun martial arts. I mean, 80% Wing Chun Kung Fu. After being around American men who were bigger and more opposing people, not to mention he got into um, this legendary fight that no one really knows what happened except for the people that were there at the time with a martial arts master named Wong Jack Man. He decided that traditional Chinese martial arts weren't effective against in real fights, particularly in America where you're going to be fighting people bigger than you. So he incorporated a lot of uh, conditioning and running exercises and cross trained in different arts. Um, Particularly, he added boxing, savate, um, the principles of fencing and kickboxing, or at least what he knew of kickboxing. He knew very little about kickboxing at the time because there was no prior to uh, prior to the 70s there weren't really any Muay Thai people um, doing show practicing the art in America. So the little he gathered through like videos and books, he cobbled that together, and that became John Fan Gung Fu, which it was still like 50% Wing Chun, but he added, the footwork, and punching techniques of boxing, was some of the principles of foil fencing and kicking that he saw in arts like Savate and Muay Thai to deal with fighting more physically opposing people than he was accustomed to in Hong Kong. The major difference between John Fan Gung Fu and what later became Jeet Kune Do was hard sparring. Once Bruce started hard sparring, he streamlined it much more and took out a lot of the Wing Chun out of Jeet Kune Do, um, where Jeet Kune Do later became more of a kickboxing style. So that's sometimes to differentiate John Fan Gung Fu from Jeet Kune Do, we would say John Fan Gung Fu and Jeet Kune Do kickboxing. Um, but in any case, I don't want to get into all that. But yeah, Mike Tyson would always had a huge size advantage against Bruce Lee in any combat sport they underwent, whether it was wrestling, judo, kickboxing, MMA, or just boxing. Tyson, get given Tyson 6 months of preparation for the fight, he uh all things being equal, he will almost always win the fight, despite Bruce's better skills. You can't get past size advantage. If that was, like I said, if that was the case, then any strawweight uh, female MMA champion could beat up big guys much bigger than them. But we know that doesn't happen. We know no matter how talented Stamp Fairtax is, or Supergirl Jefferson is, or Denise Samboenga, they're not going to beat some 300. They're not going to beat some 250-pound MMA guy. Just it's not going to happen. They're not going to beat up a 250-pound guy who's untrained just because size matters. However, there's a caveat now, and that goes into the whole point I was making about Aaron the plumber and all these guys thinking they could beat up people, all these middle-aged men gassed up about Aaron the plumber and all this. Being muscular in itself is not going to give you, that does not mean you can fight, because you take a guy like Aaron the plumber against someone who might be slightly smaller but who is a well-trained uh, combat sports athlete. They're going to kick his Ninja Turtle looking ass, because that dude looks like a, I'm sorry, he's built like a Michael Bay Ninja Turtle, which is not a compliment. I almost as well, but that's crazy to think about when I see all these fast kicks and everything, all these people do, and karate and martial arts and all kinds of things. Yes, but you're talking about movies. You're not. You need to judge based on watching combat sport competition, not watching movies. Movies are meant to be entertaining, not to be realistic. People judging on what people can do in movies. This is why there's a constant debate in the martial arts community of whether certain of of how talented certain martial arts actors are. Like, we'll usually say, okay, they're very talented as far as their skills, but that doesn't necessarily train to them being trained fighters. People like Michael Jai White, Scott Atkins, Jackie Chan, and anyone else you want to name. Now there was a lot of martial arts actors in the 70s and 80s who were actual competitors and champions in their respective fields, and they were invited into Hollywood because of that people like Don the Dragon Wilson, Chuck Norris, Van Damme. He actually was a kickboxing champion. Most people may not believe that, but he actually has the footage to prove it. He did both point karate and kickboxing. Um, Chuck Norris also did full contact karate. Bill Superfoot Wallace did uh, kickboxing and full contact karate. Don Dragon Wilson did kickboxing. Um, and several other people. But usually the most entertaining martial arts actors often weren't the ones who actually competed, outside of people like Chuck Norris. Steven Seagal, for instance, has never did shit, never did anything competitive in his life, except maybe competitive eating. Kat says Bruce Lee is super lightweight, whereas Tyson's built like a brick shit house. Yeah, I would say Bruce would have been between a super lightweight or a welterweight. At his heaviest, he would have been a welterweight. Unfortunately, he had trouble keeping that weight on. Mullen says, yes, Omar, I agree, but if Tyson got close enough, it's over. Ectomorph versus an ultra heavyweight. But rest in paradise to Foreman. Seeing y'all speaking about boxing, I hope he's not embarrassed, not remember for the grill. No, most people remember. Well, it depends on the generation. People who grew up in the 80s and 90s will know him more for his boxing than his grill. And the grill is almost kind of forgotten about because that's been so long too. We still have a Foreman grill, but I rarely use it. The reason I stopped liking the Foreman grill is because I hated cleaning it. It cooked very well, but I hated cleaning it. And most people who were in college in the early 2000s had a George Foreman grill in their dorm. Usually we weren't allowed to cook, but most people either had like a microwave and or a George Foreman grill. Then they started to make the Foreman grills miniaturized, and so a lot of people used to have those miniature Foreman grills in their dorm. But yeah, rest in peace to George Foreman. It's also to throw this in. Striking and kicking underwater helps with that as well. Rehabilitation for broken bones or torn ligaments. Mm, Well, just part of physical therapy. Like Stamp Fairtax, I think she still hasn't competed after she tore her. I think she tore her ACL 2 years ago. She she's training again, but she hasn't competed yet. Like she's taken a long time to heal. Um, that's I don't recommend punching and kicking if you are actually injured. If you just have like eh, injured some joints or whatever, possibly, but that's not most of the time when people are injured in combat sports, they undergo physical therapy like Stamp Fairtax has. They're really not gonna have you punching and kicking. They're gonna be have you doing specific exercises to heal the muscles and ligaments and tendons. He's been doing that regularly. Should have picked Storm for Avengers instead and Rescue and Rogue and Gambit. I'm gonna say yeah, but I remember something funny. And there was this little white girl when I was in high school. She was small and she got into it with some guys and beat the hell out of them. And she told me that she was in some type of martial arts. And she's small all the time, so she had like super fast reflexes. Yeah, that's the difference between trained and untrained. Like I said, most men can't fight. Most men will just bluff. They will use their size to they'll use their size or their musculature to sort of intimidate others, but that can only go so far. Like yeah, like if you're a 250 pound, 6'3" man against a 5'7", 150 pound man, there's going to be a sizable weight advantage, and you will probably punk like you'll probably get that man to 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 acquiesce. However, that's not a good strategy because a lot of us guys, whether we're small or not, many of us have our concealed carries and our EDC tools, and it doesn't matter how big you are because your muscles aren't stopping bullets and blades. So it's still not a good gamble for you to be twice the size of another man and threatening them because you don't know if that smaller man is packing or not. Like there was a famous Looney Tunes character, Speedy Gonzalez. It was a mouse who be like, it was racist as hell, but he was like the fastest mouse, Speedy Gonzalez. But Speedy Gonzalez had a cousin named Slowpoke Gonzalez who was small and weak. And so Sylvester used to catch him all the time. But so but Slowpoke Gonzalez had a 12 had a like a 6 round shooter. He had a 6 round revolver. He's like, I'm Slowpoke Gonzalez. I am the slowest mouse in all Mexico, but I pack it be gone. He would shoot the shit out of Sylvester. That's what happens in real life too. Don't threaten little men because you don't know what those little men are if they are packing or not. Especially here in Baltimore, almost everyone has a weapon. So that Aaron the plumber shit ain't gonna work in real life. That works on reality TV. Confuse reality TV for reality. He wouldn't be walking around places like Baltimore or Philly, getting up in people's face about to fight because he's gonna get chopped up. So that's my lesson. Can't fight, shut up. He's like, Emily says, yeah. He said, pretty Ricky. At least it's not bro man from the fifth floor. I met him. He seems cool as he's a comedian in real life. He seems cool as I don't know what. I mean, I wouldn't want to get in a fight with him, but um, yeah. I mean, he didn't seem intimidating in real life. He was just like he was just like mad chill. You know, almost as maybe taekwondo and judo. So breathing tech is so important. Street fights end with in under a minute because they panic. Gotta breathe. Well, what I was saying, not breathing techniques. It's just when you get into that parasympathetic response, that's what happens. You get that narrowing of your vision, that tunnel vision. You get that shortness of breath. You get this sort of time dilation effect. Um, the only thing that what hap- what uh, what helps with shortness of breath is someone who has trained in something that's given them more stamina, something dealing with cardio like running, rucking, biking, skipping rope, hitting a heavy bag. These are all good forms of cardio. So that even though you get that sort of shortness of breath, you can fight through it. But for the untrained person who's physically unfit, that whole shortness of breath is going to leave you incapacitated. I want to say yes. I remember George Foreman grill. You can knock the fat out. See, I was different. I, I cooked mine unhealthy. So you know the little drip tray. And I'm gonna probably get off after this. But so you know how the George Foreman grill, you had the little drip tray for the meat. Pause. but but you had the little drip tray for the grease and fat that poured down off the grill. What I would do, because I'm a fat boy at heart, I'm not fat, but I'm a fat boy at heart. Not my physical heart, but I get mentally. I would take the drip tray and just drip all the and take the drip tray and pour it back onto the burger with the chops to give it more flavor. So like I said, that was my fat boy method of making my food extra tasty on the Foreman grills. That most people like they thought it was healthier because the drip tray would catch all the juice and fat coming off whatever they were cooking, like the burger or hot dogs or steak or chops, whatever. But I would take all the stuff off the drip tray and then pour it back onto the food to um to give it more flavor. So I didn't knock the fat out. I recycled the fat and made it tastier. I wonder how many other people did it. Did any of you guys do that? Did you take the drip tray from the Foreman grill? And this is also for the people watching this on replay. You can leave this in the comment section if any of you done this, and you can leave in the comment section as well anything else you've seen in the live stream and you want to comment on for the folks watching this on replay. But was I the only one who took the drip tray from the Foreman grill and then poured the grease back onto the meat so that it would it would flavor it? If I'm the only one, let me know. Oh, you said, oh my god, he said, you can't believe you said that I did the same thing. Okay, good. I'm making sure I'm not the only weirdo. I just want to make sure I'm not the only weirdo who did that because I took the drip tray and poured the stuff right back onto the food so it would give it extra flavor, even the vegetables. Because there was a time when I was a vegan, so I used to fry my uh, food on the grill, my veggies, particularly the shiitake mushrooms. I think that's no, the I think the portobello mushrooms, because those tasted so good, and I would fry those in olive oil. And as the so I will put the vegetables on the grill and flavor them with some spices and some olive oil. And as it dripped, I would just pour it back onto the mushroom and veggies. Usually like it was like the portobello mushrooms, onions, and green peppers, or red peppers. That's making me hungry right now. I haven't had a veggie sub in a long time. But yeah, so I used to do that and make a veggie sub. I used to taste so good. I'm not gonna even hold you. That was good. The portobello mushrooms, the onions, and the peppers. Put that on a a hoagie roll, and I would often put the hoagie roll on the grill too to give to season it. Like some like some Italian seasoning, some olive oil on the bread, right? Put that on the grill for a few seconds after I cook the veggies, so I get that flavor, and then put like like some my garnishings on the sub, like lettuce and tomatoes and all that, and with the portobello mushroom and the fried pepper and onions, grilled rather the grilled pork mushroom pepper and onions, make a nice little veggie sub. That was good. That was like the tastiest thing I used to eat as a vegan. That or there was this Chinese dish. I forgot what it was called. I think it was called the I think it was called the Buddhist monk's delight or something like that because it was a complete because it was completely vegetarian. It was called the Buddhist monk delight. Those two were the tastiest things I ate as a vegan was the Buddha monk delight at this Chinese takeout at my college, and when I used to make the veggie subs with the portobello mushrooms, and I used to use the Foreman grill whenever I made my veggie subs. All right, enough of that. So guys, if you ever use the Foreman grill, let me know. And let me know if you also poured the drip tray back onto your food, even though you were supposed to use, even though you were supposed to pour it out to make the food healthier. Because I'm guessing from what Omar said, I'm not the only one who did that. Also, if people want to challenge me as far as saying that I'm wrong, that most men can't fight, I stand by that. Most men, unless you receive actual like training in your childhood or your adulthood, you can't fight. No amount of no amount of hours spent watching boxers or watching martial arts movies is going to make you into a fighter if you haven't trained. And just because you hit the gym every day, that doesn't mean you can fight either. Now, I will say this, and I've said this a million times, and I keep saying it. Half of self defense is being physically fit. So that I do acknowledge. 50% of self defense is being physically fit. However, the other 50% is knowing how to fight amongst some, well, not 50% exactly, but the, the remainder of it is mostly knowing how to fight, being situationally aware, and a bunch of other useful skills, which I'm not going to get into here. But if you can't actually fight, you, well, I mean, if you're not actually trained, sorry, you can't fight. So that's what I'll say about that. But I'm going to go, guys. It's late. I will be back tomorrow with a different topic. But again, if anyone wants to leave comments, feel free and I'll respond. But like I said, I stand on my square. Most men can't fight. So people like Aaron the plumber need to stop the cap. All that blustering he does is for reality TV because in real life he would get shot. That's all I'm saying. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you to my moderators. Guys, I'm out. Take it easy. Have a good night or a good day if you're on the other side of the ocean.